Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a sort of abstract palette knife art tutorial. It's quite an easy sort of tutorial. It's quite a nice idea to use up those sort of old canvases that you might not want to use anymore, or maybe you made some mistakes on them. So I'm going to show you what you need for this. I have got a old canvas. You can see it's old because I obviously made a mistake on it, because you can see this sort of weird outline here. But anyway, I painted it with silver, but this is perfect for what we want to use today because it's just scrap sort of, I'm not going to use it for a different sort of painting. And because this is abstract and we're using sort of thicker bits of paint, you're not going to see any of this underneath. I've also got some palette knives, so mine are a little bit dirty, but anyway, they'll dry. These ones are actually from Winsor and Newton, but I'll put some links in the description below of all the products I'm using today. I've got just a bit of cardboard where I'm going to mix up some of my paints and put paints down on. I find it easier than using like a circular mixing board because you need a flat area so that you can pick up the paint in a straight line. So I think if you had a circular one, it would be a bit more difficult. And then paints, so I've got this set here. So I got this from my local art shop. It's not too expensive, it's good for this kind of a project. And I've got lots of different colours here. So I've got my cardboard here, which I'm going to use as my palette board. I'd like a turquoisey colour, so I've got some, but I'm going to have to mix it up. So I've got some blue here. You need a fair amount to sort of cover the entire image, and then obviously I'll put green in it to make it a nice turquoisey colour. And then I've got like a big thing of white acrylic because I'm always using white acrylic, so let's put a fair amount of that into it. And then we can use our palette knife here just to mix it up. So just start to mix it up like this. Kind of drag it from one side to the other, and the white really helps to bulk the colour out a lot. Okay, that's looking good. I'd like some pink, and then I think I'll have a bit of a purple maybe. Again, I'll make a paler version of it and then have a darker version over there. So we've got that, and then maybe I'll put a bit of a red over here. It just gives me options basically. Right, so I think that might be our colours. Okay, I tried something over this side. It did not work, guys. So I'm going to try something different. That's just how it is sometimes. Sometimes artwork doesn't work for me either. But I'm not going to waste the canvas. I'm just going to try something a bit different. I've got the colours on my palette board here. I think what I'm going to do is use this rounded one here. So I'm going to get a bit of the pink on my knife and maybe one other colour, and I'm just going to press it and drag. So let's try a bit of blue, a bit of pink, just under it, press it and drag. Press it lightly and drag. I don't want it to be too samey like it is over here, so I think I need some darker colours. Press it and drag. I might put in a bit of blue. Yeah, I think that looks nice. So add a bit of pale blue in there. So just to reiterate what I'm doing, I'm using the front of my palette knife, pick up some of the colour, drag it so you have it on the end. And sometimes I'll dip into two, sometimes I'll dip into one because it will still have some from the previous time. And then you press and drag. Literally hardly a press, so just tap it and drag. Tap it and drag. Really easy technique. So I'm going to carry on finishing the whole thing so you can see once it's finished. I'll show you in a different view as well what it looks like, but it's just a great way to use up your old canvases and just kind of create quite a nice abstract piece of art. The one thing I would suggest is that you use kind of cheap paints, because you do use up a lot of paint for this kind of a project. So don't go using your really fancy nice paints, just buy some cheap paints. And also I would suggest doing quite a fairly small painting, not doing this for a large painting, because again it uses up a lot of paint. So it's a few days later and it's completely dried. Sorry about my voice, I've got a cold at the minute, so bear with me. So feel free to stop at this stage and you can just keep it as it is, and that can be the painting finished. I'm going to go one step further. So what I've got is I've got some little pots of glitter, little things of glitter here that I just got from a shop in the UK called The Works, but you could just grab them from any cheap store. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is prop my painting up on these pyramid painters, and these are just great for putting at each corner so that the painting is off the table. Okay, I put down some plastic covering, and I've made sure I've got enough on this side because eventually we're going to cover the painting. So I'm going to prop the painting up. You want it to be on the wood and not on the actual canvas, because otherwise you will get an indentation on the canvas, so just make sure it's on the wooden part of the panel. Now what I'm going to use is this tuck tape to cover the sides. This one is really good because obviously once resin gets on it you can pull the resin off quite easily, whereas if you use masking tape or any other kind of tape on the sides, it can easily sort of get stuck in the resin and you can't pull it off that easily, so I would suggest getting some tuck tape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the tape along the sides of the painting, but I'm going to make sure that it's sticking slightly above this white edge here, because the painting is actually 3D, so I want the resin to go higher than that. So I'm just going to stick that on. So as you can see, it's got a bit of an edge there so that the resin can go higher. Okay, I put the tape on all four sides, so that's what it looks like, and I'm going to place it back on the pyramid painters. And my last thing that I want to do is I want to add some glitter. Okay, so I've got my 2 bowls of resin. These are art resin, so this is the resin, and then over here I've got the hardener. And I've also got a, the way I measure it, the way I find easiest is just some scales. So I put it underneath the plastic covering just so that I don't get resin on it. And I've got a cup here, so I'm going to pop the cup scale and then set it to 0. And then I'm going to pour my resin in. If you want to know like measurements and that sort of thing, I will put a link in the description below how I measure out my resin. So I'm just going to pour this into the cup. So I've got 80 grams. And then I'm going to do the same with the hardener. Okay, and now we're going to mix up my resin. So I'm going to do this for at least 5 minutes. Make sure you scrape every single edge, make sure you scrape the bottom. You're really going to want to make sure this is all mixed up really well. So I'm just mixing up with a wooden stick thing. Okay, I've been mixing my resin for about 5 minutes. Don't worry if it's got lots of bubbles in it, that is just how it looks. So we're going to get the bubbles out by using one of these torches. You can get these off eBay, Amazon, that sort of thing. And also what you want on hand is a sort of like a card that you're not using anymore, or maybe a flat scraper. So this is just going to move the resin along if it needs help. So I'm going to start by pouring this just in the middle and then just making a design like this. And we're going to try not to scrape out the inside of this, just because there may be some unmixed resin, so if possible try not to scrape it out. So we're going to leave that, and then we're going to just use our scraper just to help it move to
each corner. I should be wearing gloves really, but I'm afraid I don't have any, which is really annoying, but please do wear gloves if you've got some, because if resin gets on your hand, it is a nightmare getting off. Okay, next I'm going to use my blowtorch to get out the bubbles, and just try and be fairly quick with this. So that's one time. I'm going to just wait 30 seconds and then I'll do it again. So that's the second time. I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, so that's it. You don't want to torch it too much because it can actually burn. But for now, that's it. You want to check from the side just to check that everything is covered in terms of like the thickness of the paint was quite thick. So you want to make sure the resin is covering it. So I'm just going to check that. Yeah, there's nothing poking up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use our excess cover here to cover the painting. So the way I'm going to do that is pop the two resin bottles on either side, and I'm going to pull this over it and tape it down really tight so that it doesn't touch the painting one bit. Okay, so it's the next day. I've let everything dry for about 24 hours, so I'm just going to see how it is. Okay, so I just want to test that it's all dried correctly, and you can just use your fingernails just to check that it's tapping, that there's no sticky bits, and that feels great. So it's definitely cured correctly. It means that I mixed it well. If it is sticky and tacky, then especially after 24 hours it's still tacky, then there's been a problem with the mixing process. I do have another video out there on how to fix sticky resin, so I'll put that in the top of the video now. Okay, so I'm just going to take off pyramid painters, and we're just going to remove the tape. So I'm just peeling off the tape off the side here, so I'll show you once it's all peeled off. Okay, so I've taken off the tape from the sides. It is a bit dirty. The sides are really sticky from the tuck tape, so I will need to paint the sides just to stop that stickiness. So this is the final product. It's got a really nice shine on it. The glitter looks really nice. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all soon with a new video. Bye guys!